Are we live? Yeah, I think we are live. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Ian Rinion, a random guy on the internet talking news, trends, and brain stuff from a Catholic lens. This is the second time that I'm using that intro after rebranding. Yeah, no no intro and extra graphics for this live stream. I'm still transitioning. I haven't done the graphics for that just yet, and I have officially retired the original logo, so I'm not going to use that. Not going to use that anymore. Basically, it's already archived. Either way, I have a lot of things to tell you, and the fact that I'm doing this is because yeah, it is a lot of stuff, random stuff actually, because there's a lot of things that happened the past few weeks. Uh, Aside from the election of Pope Leo the 14th, and perhaps this is my way of doing that because today is the 30th of May 2025. So for all intents and purposes, it's the end of May, the last weekday of May, for that matter. It's not a brood banter, but it's around 10 in the morning, so might as well get this cup of coffee going. Tara, kape tayo. Okay, just have to I just have to say something uh about what happened to me in the past few weeks, past few months. The fact, or actually, I don't want to say the fact, but if you've been wondering why am I doing live streams at this point and no longer doing videos, the reason why is my phone got stolen last April. So yeah, it sucks. It really sucks because I don't know. It I don't know why the hell was I aware of that. I mean, still processing the fact that the very first time that I bought a phone in the last 10 years, aside from hand me downs, it just disappeared alongside my national ID. So, yeah. And I really don't want to start this live stream with a downer or something, but it's important for you to know that my phone got stolen. For some reason, I recovered my phone number because I immediately made sure that the phone number got blocked, and all of the security shit have been sorted out. It's just that it's unfortunate because it was my best phone. It was my best phone. Um, it was my best phone in a long while, and it's gone. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the only person that um in my circle or in my circle of contacts that lost the phone. Some of the people I know in my parish um also had phones that were stolen from them. So as a lesson, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, please make sure to keep your valuables close to you. If you can't, if you, if possible, um don't put it in your pockets, especially in public transport, because my phone was stolen on on the MRT3. So yeah, very notorious, especially because it was it was stolen during rush hour, and by that time I attended a, job training, which unfortunately didn't went well. I'm gonna spare you the details, but yeah, uh, it was a fluke. I mean, nothing wrong with everything that I experienced there. It's just unfortunate. So yeah, back to being a bum. I guess the silver lining here is that I got paid during that time. So at the very least, there's something I can at least there's something. Okay, so uh, I realized that that job was not for the faint of heart, and you know I got burned. So I'm in a month long marathon of burnouts actually this May. So I wasn't really in the mood to celebrate the election of the new pope. Of course it's a very happy time, of course, but you know, I'm still reeling. I'm still processing. I'm still recovering from that shit. And I guess this is the only time that I can tell you what really happened in those past few weeks. So yeah, it I don't know, man. I really don't want to tell you these stuff, but I guess that's the most private thing that I'm going to tell you at this on this live stream. So yeah, if ever you're listening or watching this either live or after the fact, uh I'm open for work, and yeah, might as well, right? Anyway, the next agenda or next topic that I want to talk about is the recent concert that was held on the West Philippine Sea, which is basically the part of the South China Sea that is within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. So uh there is this group called Atin Ito Coalition. In English, it means this is ours. And this is not the first time that they're doing this, but it is the first time that that the group has made a successful voyage toward one of the Spratly Islands, or at least near it. And they had a concert. Not they had two concerts. One um before they as a send off show, and they also had a concert at sea. And based on the news reels that I have watched, um it was an impromptu show on the bridge of the ship. So because it was a bit stormy, so they cannot do the show on the deck of the ship. So they had to move indoors, and the bridge is basically the most I guess the most appropriate place uh to have that show, because as we always say, the show must go on, and somehow that's a good thing. I really wanted to uh tell this, or I really wanted to emphasize this, because I've seen a meme that somehow detracts the whole damn thing. I'm no political analyst. I'm not even a journalist at this point. Hopefully, I although as much as I would love to become one, but I'm using common sense here because it's a civilian mission. Okay, I get it. We need to uh we need to have the defense budget uh somehow increased so that we can deter any adversarial actions. However, I'm not really insulted, but I just find the meme stupid because um it just goes to show that they're you know just because of ideological differences, they're they're not recommending the whole damn thing altogether because quite honestly at this point when it comes to that issue of sovereignty over our western seaboard and our exclusive economic zone, it should be both end. It should be a both end approach. Yes, increase the defense budget, but yes, allow these kind of concerts to go. Because come to think of it, it's a civilian mission. Okay? If it is a government sponsored mission, water cannons will be pointed towards those ships, our Philippine government ships for that matter. But if it's a civilian vessel, it's a civilian mission, any damage towards the ship and any injuries or casualties, God forbid, that uh that are reported aboard that ship because it's a the passengers and crew are civilians. If there's any damage or injury reported aboard, it's going to be a diplomatic nightmare. And nobody in the international community wants a diplomatic nightmare. So I'm taking the both end approach when it comes to tackling these kinds of things. Because yes, it's a geopolitical, it's a geopolitical thing. It's a geopolitical um can of worms. But at the same time, you know, use the tools that we have in disposal. And one of those tools is a civilian mission. It just doesn't have to be big guns as much as it is uh necessary. Yes, I've been mentioning this a few minutes ago. Yeah, big guns are needed, but also big brains. That's that's just my take on it. Okay. In Tagalog, ayan, dapat both end solution eh. Hindi dapat ah hindi dapat armas lang, diplomasya din. I mean, maganda na ma-increase yung defense budget, pero maganda din na may mga ganitong klaseng civilian mission 'tong atin ito para, para maipakita na, "Sige, subukan ninyo kaming i-water cannon kung hindi magkakaroon ng diplomatic nightmare, after the fact." So, it's a smart move, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I have ideological differences with the people that form that mission, but you know, all things considered, it's a big brain move, okay? let's give them that credit where credit is due. Okay, so that's the Atinito concert settled. What else? Yeah, the other big thing that the other big thing that's happening here in the Philippines, or at least in Metro Manila, where Intrepid HQ is located nearby, is the no contact apprehension policy. So I find it weird that a lot of people are disgusted, or let's just say up in arms against this policy. Perhaps there are some points, yes, when it comes to implementation and all that. Of course, that's of course that would happen. Uh that's definitely going to be an initial problem, birthing pangs, or let's just say baby steps. I don't know, but I have to admit, implementation of this policy would be very, very complicated at this point in time when the Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, or EDSA, is going to be rehabilitated as per government sources. At the same time, this also goes to show that some motorists, whether a car, but mostly on motorcycles, have this kind of sense of entitlement that, you know, especially for motorcycle riders. I'm not love to have a driver's license and be, you know, licensed to drive a car and a motorcycle as a responsible driver. If you want me to go to driving school, and and you would like to help me go get to driving school, uh, do support me on Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-fi, or PayPal. The links to those links to those crowdfunding platforms are in the live stream description here on YouTube. So um consider um please consider supporting me through those platforms. I would appreciate um every single cent that you give to me, you give my way. And yeah, there will be perks on that, of course. Um the the least that I can do is mention your names, if that's okay. But yeah, I would definitely appreciate it if you would help me um supplement supplement my income, because yeah, it's really hard to do these things without any financial support. So yeah, perhaps I can document the journey for of me getting to driving school. Why not? But that's for another time, okay? But I really just wanted to segue that. I really don't want to segue that, actually, but uh going back, I would love to drive as a skill, as a life skill, and I would love to be a responsible driver, both on both on four and two-wheeled vehicles. I've already done that as a cyclist and on two wheels, but having a motor doing the work for you is different. It's faster, much heavier, and at the same time, it is a responsibility. That's the reason why it's licensed. So I'm a bit the 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 mindset of some motorcycle riders are a bit warped. Um, It's very warped to the point that it reeks of entitlement. It reeks of entitlement. So tatagalugin ko, marami sa mga motorcycle rider, masyado silang entitled. Hindi ko nilalahat. Maraming mga responsable na motorcycle riders, I get that. Pero the fact na marami ako nababasa sa social media na na gumagawa ng paraan para hindi maano, para hindi masita, para anti-NCAP and all that shit. I mean, ayokong matawa, pero nakakatawa, eh. Nakakatawa na nakakainis. Kasi nakaka-discourage sa mga katulad ko na gustong mag-driving school na may mga ganitong klaseng ugali, na gagawa sila ng paraan para makalusot. And, they will label it as diskarte. Wala namang masama sa diskarte. Everyone wants to make a living. Kahit naman ako, eh. If this makes a living, I would be happy. Pero I'm just here to I don't wanna be the moral voice on social media, but you know what? I might as well, say something about this. And kung tutuusin, mas marami ang ano, eh, mas marami ang mga motorcycle riders, eh, kaysa sa mga nakakotse. Either way, the fact is there's induced demand. I mean, there's the main problem here is induced demand. Wala namang masama kung bumili ng kotse, bumili ng motorsiklo. Why not, 'di ba? That's your money. Wala akong magagawa diyan. But there's a responsibility towards it. Kung maganda ang ano mo, pagpapatakbo mo sa sasakyan mo, why not, 'di ba? Okey lang. Kaya lang kasi, in the name of diskarte, gagawa at gagawa ka ng paraan. And yun yung mali sa ano natin, eh, yun yung mali sa, ah, ugali natin bilang mga Pilipino. Every single time na may mga ganitong klaseng, ayoko sabihing pagdidisiplina, eh, pero you know, ang hirap kasing masawa-tama ganyan, eh. Kaya no choice, the powers that be have no choice but to but to do this. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that what they're doing is great. I'm not here to say that. Kaya lang kasi it's a symp I it's a symptom of the problem of induced demand. I would really love to commute via public transport. Perhaps a hybrid one kung sakali man magka-folding bike ako, 'di ba? Padyakan ko na lang hanggang sa terminal ng bus and all that, ride ride towards ano, the center of Manila, EDSA, ganyan. Tapos puwede na akong mag-MRT, LRT and all that. Tapos papadyakan ko na lang yung mga ano, yung mga lugar na gusto kong puntahan. That would be a good idea in an ideal world, but in reality, there must be compromises. There must be, I don't wanna say compromise in the term na mawawala yung mga bisikleta sa EDSA and all that. If ma-retain sila dun, bakit hindi? But it would be also nice, it would also be appreciated, not just by the cycling community but the general public, kung magkaroon ng dedicated na bicycle routes na, you know, na adjacent sa EDSA para hindi lang EDSA yung option nila. Kumbaga, a bike corridor on both sides, which is specifically dedicated to cyclists para, you know, and perhaps it would be also a good idea to modify responsible driving by, you know, by not buying cars. I understand that there are dealerships who want to make money, okay? Trabahong marangal 'yun. Yet, ah, ayoko sabihin na ano, eh, na, you know, let's keep our options open. 'Yun na lang masasabi ko. Kasi hindi lahat marunong mag-bike, hindi lahat gustong mag-bike, at hindi lahat, may driver's license or ah, kayang mag-driving school. So, I really call for compromise and, cooler heads in this topic of NCAP and, EDSA rehabilitation and, basically the traffic situation in Metro Manila in general. I'm calling for common sense, cooler heads, and compromise. Kasi, yeah, it really is it really is needed. Kasi ayoko na lang din na makabalita ako na may mga, you know, mga insidente na alitan and all that shit. It's very it's very exhausting at this point. It's very exhausting to even, uh, talk about, uh, traffic related, altercations or even issues because everyone just wants to go from point A to point B. And the more options or the easier the options for people to get there by any means necessary, the better. So maybe that's just me. Pero uh you know, that's where I stand when it comes to the NCAP thing. Thirdly, and this is going to be a trigger warning because you know, it this part of this live stream would tackle some mental health issues and let's just say self deletion. And I wanted to say this not only as a person who would like to tackle mental health on my channel, but also as someone who is from the school or from the institution where this person um once was affiliated before deciding to leave on his own on his own terms. There is this student from the University of Santo Tomas who was supposed to walk out of the Arc Centuries today on this day because today is the baccalaureate mass um in UST, and he will never be able to do so. Not only because he made that decision, but also because a terror prof somehow uh didn't allow him to walk out of that arch. It's unfortunate, it's sad, and it makes me angry because I not only studied in UST, but I also, at least for one academic year, taught students, college students. And I really wanted to balance being fair and being fun without compromising, of course, academic standards. Yes, I'm just a general education lecturer during that time, but nonetheless, kesyo ito Gen Ed man 'yan o specialized course for a specific program, they should be setting the standards on, on being human. I really don't want to go say that my blood is boiling when it comes to this, but, it's far too, we have lost far too many people due to self-deletion. I really don't want to say the S word, kaya I'm making this euphemism because, YouTube standards and all that shit. But you know what I mean when I say self-deletion or, you know, uh going out on your own terms and all that. It's really sad kasi come to think of it, I was also contemplating that in several points in my life. I'm not saying that this guy or this student is weak. No, by no means I'm saying that. And I would like to honor his legacy, or I would like to honor the life that he lived by saying that there are two kinds of being a terror prof. Because you can be a good terror prof by being fun, by being fair and fun, even if you're feared. And there's a bad way of being a terror prof, which is basically what that terror prof did to that student, which prompted him to leave our plane of existence on his own terms. It's quite ironic too, because there's a triple C core virtue for the university that even alumni like me are struggling to live out beyond the arch. Competence, compassion, and commitment. Fail in any one of these three, you fail to be a Thamasian. And again, as I say this, I say this as a Thamasian alumnus, I'm struggling with at least one of them, if not the three of them. And while I understand that the university is, you know, pursuing competence and commitment, in these days, it is courageous to be compassionate. Sad to say, the prop the prof who flunked that guy is either a coward or, you know, not in line with the times. He needs to this prof needs to reconsider his or her approach when it comes to teaching students, because as far as I understand it, the university is doing all its best to you know to push for the welfare of its community. It's quite sad that it's not enough, but at least there's something. And to that student, I only hope that he rests in peace. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's the end of that's the end of the trigger warning. I know it's the second time I'm doing the downer stuff, but you know, this that one was much more serious. And now that um now that I've actually sorted that out, thanks be to God, I really wanted to um do this um do this as an experiment. I actually wanted to write this as a, as a YouTube video, but then again, as I said, my phone got stolen. I do not have a good quality phone to replace it as of the moment. So I'm just reading this script as part of this live stream. I may do some edits and make it separate video as a live stream snippet. Why not, right? And yeah, I just hope that I have the time to read all of this and stay uh I don't know, stay, know, uh be productive in the time that I'm live. I wanted this to end at around 11 a.m. Philippine Standard Time. That should be 3 a.m. UTC. So I'm gonna give it a try, but if I go overtime, that's also okay. So yeah. So ladies and gentlemen of the internet, this next thing that I wanted to talk about is basically my frustration with Jordan Peterson. Because recently, the YouTube channel Jubilee invited Indian clinical psychologist and intellectual Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Why did I uh why did I read it that way when I mentioned his name? But either way, whatever. And I I understand. And as far as we all know, Peterson authored multiple books, including this one, 12 Rules for Life. I have a copy of this, and I've actually finished reading this, and I have also made a book review of this uh, last Christmas. So, yeah, do check it out after the fact. Now, Peterson talked to 20 atheists on Jubilee, perhaps because the producers think he was a Christian. And somehow this assumption is fair enough after the public knew of the conversion of his wife Tammy to Catholicism. But then again, he also recently wrote the book We Who Wrestle with God. And he is personally wrestling with the notion of faith, especially Christianity, which he recognized as the cradle of Western society. But it's quite ironic that you're called upon to defend a belief system you personally do not adhere to, because it's like a sports team shoving a fan or maybe an amateur athlete into a game and letting him play with the pros. Let's just say, in Tagalog, you know, tambay ka lang or nanonood ka lang ng laro, siguro basketball game. Tapos nakulang yung isang team, tapos nakita ka ng coach, sasabihin sa'yo, "Halika rito, laro ka." You know, lalo lalo na or especially kung that's a professional game. Tapos, you're just an ordinary basketball player who plays the local leagues in your local barangay. So, 'di ba? Nakaka-intimidate 'yun. And I don't know if Peterson was intimidated with that, but come to think of it, the fact that he's not a Christian, or let's just say a cultural Christian, as a stretch, it's really unfortunate that the producers are doing this. So this is the reason why I get frustrated with him. You see, Peterson may be precise and articulate in a lot of things, and rightfully so that he is known for that. But he is pondering around the concept of being a believer. And for me, this is the very contradiction of several of his original 12 rules, in particular, rules 2, 6, 10, and 12. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this in this live stream, there's actually a very excellent analysis by Catholic Answers commentator Trent Horn about Peterson's Jubilee appearance. And I invite you to watch that video perhaps after this live stream or after the fact. You can watch it first before coming back to me, as I would like to add on Trent's points, if not doubling it down. Because, yeah, hands down to Trent Horn for for dealing with that can of worms. And as for Jubilee, there are a lot of videos on YouTube saying that it's a problematic YouTube channel, and they can go fuck themselves for exploiting authentic ideological discussions like the grifters that they really are. And what I did here in this in the script that I'm reading is that I have highlighted some of the 12 rules uh, that I think is contradicting to what Jordan Peterson did on that Jubilee video. So I'll start with rule 2, and it reads: treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Now, I understand Peterson is trying to practice what he preaches, but you know, perhaps this is just my limited view because I haven't read Beyond Order yet, the sequel to 12 Rules for Life. But nevertheless, knowing the chaos of non affiliation should push him through the order of faith. But then again, as I said earlier, I haven't read Beyond Order yet, so this is just my limited perspective on Rule 2. Rule 6: set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. So basically, this is the main point of this book. Clean your room before you say something. It's a very easier said than done. I personally am struggling with that one. Come to think of it, look at my bookshelf. Look at the bookshelf that I have, or my library in the background. I have to sort that out too. And I really wanted to include this rule, not Peterson, given it is the most famous of the original 12 rules, and because I do respect and understand what he says here, but to relate it to the clutter of his mind, which definitely needs some cleaning. If it means he must wash it with the waters of bad baptism, so be it. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam, for the greater glory of God. And then there's rule 10: be precise in your speech. As far as I know, Joe Peterson is affiliated with the Daily Wire, and the other person in the Daily Wire commentator circle that has very articulate and precise speech is Ben Shapiro. Both Peterson and Shapiro are precise in their speeches. Perhaps Shapiro is so precise that his rapid speech was actually the product of years of intellectual debate. But you know what? And perhaps that's also the reason why he can make rap bars. But I digress. What differs them is that Shapiro does not hide the fact that he is Jewish, but Peterson is ambiguous on whether he is a Christian or not. So basically, at that point, he needs to practice what he preaches on Rule 10. And then the last rule that I need to share to you that I find frustrating with the author is Rule 12, which is pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. Now, I wanted to emphasize that I have I have no idea if the Petersons are pet lovers, but I think they are. In this book, they have Peter. He wrote that he has a dog or something. Perhaps his children have pets and all that. So not there's no problem with the pet part. Of course, everyone loves pets, but this is where Peterson must practice what he preaches the most, because he has been thinking endlessly about a lot of things, yet he's not noticing the fact that he might come out as incredulous about faith in addition to psychology and the current zeitgeist, which unfortunately labels him a quote unquote grifter by several people across the social cultural spectrum. I say unfortunate because, come to think of it, some people are saying he just needs to stay in his lane as a clinical psychologist. But then again, at the end of it all, Peterson, the psychologist and academician, is the most adherent student of Carl Jung. And Carl Jung himself mixed psychology with philosophy and sat on the fence when it comes to Christianity. So basically, Peterson is the most, I don't want to say the most popular disciple of Carl Jung, but at this point he is. Okay? This doesn't mean, however, that my frustration with him is a cancellation, a quote unquote cancellation of what he has done. I'm keeping this. I'm keeping this copy of 12 Rules for Life. I have cherished every single lesson that I have learned reading this book. And I still want to get a copy of Beyond Order so that, you know, I can understand this book better. Okay. So I'm not burning this. Okay. I'm not burning this. I'm keeping this book. What we ought to do now is to continue to support his call to order in the midst of chaos and to pray that Jordan, a man who is currently wrestling with God, may know God, who is order himself, and the liberating notion of clarity when it comes to faith. So that's basically my piece on Jordan Peterson and his Jubilee appearance. Again, I'll link Trent Horn's video on that matter in the live stream descriptions after the fact. So yeah, but you can also search it on YouTube. Don't uh I understand that those who are listening or watching this are adults. They can search it themselves. Okay? So and finally, do we still have time? Okay, so what? So we still have around 10 minutes. I really wanted this to be an hour long show after moving forward. So I also wanted to share this thing. I understand that this is very much watered down, or let's just say incomplete when it comes to my thought process, because I really wanted to say a lot of shit or a lot of things about this final topic for this live stream, but in the you know in the in the I don't know the term, man, but due to time constraints, I need to just read it as it is. And there's actually a version of it that I have I have made as an exclusive on Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Ko-Fi. Do check it out. Do support me there so you can check out the exclusive and extended version of what I've been writing. This is basically reading the whole damn thing for you. So yeah. So um if you have known, or if you're aware, or if you're familiar with red pill versus blue pill, that time is already over. It's and What replaced it is something else. And I really wanted to start this with the election of Pope Leo XIV, who was elected on May 8th, 2025. This new Leonine papacy was a sigh of relief for Catholics who have been concerned and somehow upset with the disastrous pontificate of Francis, who died in late April just after his final appearance on Easter Sunday. It is unfortunate in hindsight to see some Catholics who are now too jaded to be at least cautiously optimistic or even optimistically skeptical to celebrate the new era of the church, as previously mentioned in one of my previous episodes of the Intrepid podcast. And I totally understand why they think that way. And I also understand why some Catholics are on the opposite side of the trauma spectrum and are now optimistically skeptical or even hopeful for this new papacy. But I'm writing this. I wrote this prior to some, recent details, but I think this still stands because the age of red pill versus blue pill is over. It's black pill versus white pill now. And in these past few days, I have noticed an equal intensity in expressing doubts and fears for what Pope Leo would do, and in slowly easing themselves to again get used to the vestments, gestures, and traditions Francis despised then and Leo embraced now. But in the United States, there is this diocese where a certain bishop wanted to implement traditionis custodes that much that, you know, that the so-called liturgy wars is back at it again. Basically, the interregnum and the conclave is the truce that most Catholic commentators and intellectuals have, you know, have agreed upon. And then with this bishop implementing traditionis custodes after its author is already dead and in the grave, it's it's on again. And yet, in the aftermath of the previous month of significant change at the Vatican, some traditionalist Catholics have already been too fatigued in waging the liturgy wars. And full disclosure, I have also participated in the liturgy wars in a more minuscule manner until recently, and has since been cautiously optimistic or pessimistic with the election of Pope Leo. And I'm talking about the traditionalist Catholics here. Some traditionalist Catholics became optimistically skeptical Leo would reverse the scourge known as Traditionis Custodes, and personally, I or at least modify it to only affect very hostile groups who may never think of coming or returning to communion with Rome. As a shorthand, I called these these groups of people as white pillars. However, there are also other traditionalists or ex-traditionalists who have sadly lost heart and decided to sever their ties to the church entirely, and even the election of a more uniting pope like Leo will not convince them to reconsider. Some of them have turned to Reddit to express their target. Yes, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, there is a subreddit called Ex Traditional Catholic. I don't know if I'm going to link that in the live stream description, but since I'm using this write up as a script and not as an article, perhaps I should. But yeah, this group of people, alongside the more pessimistically skeptical Catholics, are what I call black pillars for the lack of a better term. And there is this video or live stream from Magazine's YouTube channel, where Eric Sammons, the editor in chief of Magazine, is urging Catholics who are empathetic to the church's past traditions and even those who don't necessarily adhere to it to not swallow the black pill. And, Sammons explained that the scandalous papacy of Francis caused traditionalist Catholics to develop a cynical defense mechanism that immediately wrote Leo off as another Francis, or as some call it, a quote unquote Francis 2.0 pontificate. It is also because these scandals that people it's also because of these scandals that people who have been faithful to the church were burnt out to the point of them heading the door and leaving. It is important to note that Crisis acquired 1 Peter 5, an outlet Steve Skoyek founded and managed. At this point, Skoyek has been so scandalized by the Catholic Church as a whole that his autistic brain, and the fact that I say that Skoyek is autistic is it's I explained it in episode 19 of the Intrepid podcast, which is basically my obituary episode for Pope Francis. Do check it out. But yeah, newsflash: Steve Skoyek is autistic, and his autistic brain has decided uh, he would like to leave the Catholic Church and become a skeptic because of the a lot of things that made him so scandalized about. So, uh, unfortunately, Steve Skoyek dismissed Leo's election as a phony or an ignorable aftermath of Francis's papacy. But then again, I can't blame him because of what he has experienced personally. So, uh, pardon me, I'm doing this on the fly. I'm I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that. Let's just say uh part where uh Eric Sammons Eric Sammons made that or there's a clip that I wanted you to listen to as I as I talk about oops. No. Sorry, Eric. I need yeah. I'm just looking for it before I no. Wait a minute. Okay. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. I'll just mute this one. One moment. Anyway, I'm doing this because I wanted you to I wanted to let him speak for himself. And I'm talking about Eric Sammons because I quoted him on this on the script. Oh, and I already am the 1 hour mark. That sucks, but yeah. At the very least, I need to get out of here by 11:15. So hopefully by that time I I have already wrapped up. All right, I get it. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here. Um okay. I'm just checking if you're seeing this now. Uh Not yet. Okay. Not yet. Okay. Oh, I think I think it's there now. Okay. 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 So, you now go full of this. So, let me go ahead and share this snippet of what he said on May 14th. So, on the May 14th episode of the Crisis Point podcast.
Because you should have been scandalized by the pontificate of Pope Francis. But the problem is being scandalized is an excuse for then falling into your own sins, your sin, and particularly the sin of cynicism, of really just having this deep cynicism that honestly is despair. That's what the real sin is. It's despair. What I mean by that is you simply just assume everything is going to be bad. Everything is going to go wrong in the church. Every pope, every bishop, every priest is against you, is against the Catholic faith. They're just a heretic, whatever, Vatican II, stooge, whatever. That's a real despair because you're not willing to be open to the fact that God can move. And he might not move exactly the way you intended. I'm sure there's not one single traditional Catholic who was rooting for Robert Prevost to become pope. Not a single one. However, that doesn't mean God can't use Robert Prevost as a pope that really does a lot for the traditional Catholic movement, does a lot of good for the church. Cynicism, despair would say, nope, it's just not possible. It's not possible. Look, he said this pro-synodality. Look, he worked for Pope Francis. He was a prefect for bishops. And look at the terrible bishops they appointed while he was prefect. Blah, 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 blah. That is really just despair and cynicism. I also think there's a certain aspect of it in which we say to ourselves, if I say things are bad, then when something bad does happen, I can sit back and say, see, I told you so. I wasn't fooled like you rubes. I knew it was all big, joke that Supich and Father Martin and all of them were all planning this from the beginning. I knew this was going to be a disaster, and you idiots didn't know it like I did.
Okay. So, I'm going to pause it there because, yeah, what Eric Salmon said here is spot on. Okay. What Eric Salmon said was spot on because, come to think of it, I understand. I really understand that people have been burned by by the previous papacy, and I'm one of them. I uh I made a recorded or an audio only content immediately after Pope Francis's death, where I say that I have been cynical because of him. It's not just because of the things that I had in my life, but what he did in the past 12 years added to that part of me saying that this guy this guy's a this guy's a I don't want to say piece of shit, but you know what? Uh you know, I'm just saying it after the fact, but uh it's still important to pray for his soul, of course, but given what he said and did in his life, the late Pope Francis, it's hard. It's hard, and everyone's struggling to pray for him. And as I said, he made me cynical, at least for a majority or for most of his papacy. Perhaps only in the past few months it's only in the past few months I reconsidered. You know, it's not. I'm not saying it's not fair, but I think it's a bad idea to be a cynic cynical that matter. But let me uh let Eric Sammons continue.
But I would much rather be optimistic and be burned later than to be cynical all the time and not recognize when God was moving. I would rather be optimistic and be burned than to be cynical and just and not see it when God works. It's the same thing like for in human relationships. There are some people who don't want to fall in love because they're afraid of the hurt they will get if one day that person betrays them. But it's better to fall in love and be betrayed than never to fall in love. Now, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing with a new pope, but I mean, the analogy is simply that I would rather be hopeful. I would rather be looking for the best and hoping for the best with a new pope, and then maybe one day find out that I was wrong, than to be like, oh, this guy's going to be a disaster. I just know it, and just sit and stew in my cynicism and my despair. Because if you are right and he is awful, well, big whoop, you're not helped. You didn't help any. And if you're wrong and he does do good things, you can't even see it because you're so sure of yourself that God can't work miracles, that God cannot work for good in the church. And so I would just challenge my fellow traditional Catholics, whether you consider me a fellow traditional Catholic or not, consider me a semi-trad or whatever you consider me, I would just really challenge you, be hopeful.
Wait. Okay, so before I say the challenge, he already said some part of it. I'm just gonna rewind it just a tad bit. But yeah, again, spot on because this is exactly what Dr. Jamil Zaki, the author of Hope for Cynics, have been talking about. The cynic trap or the cynical trap, where you may be thought of as an intellectual or as a smart guy, but when it comes to a lot of good things, when it comes to proper discernment, that's where that notion of intellect and knowing a lot of things gets warped. Because you know always stew in hindsight. Maybe that's why I'm a bit apprehensive about this and I'm and perhaps I'm saying this after the fact. Those kind of things. It's really it all interconnects. So I'll say it in the script, but I'll let me just let Eric Sammons finish here.
Consider me a semi-trad or whatever you consider me. I would just really challenge you, be hopeful, have the virtue of hope that God can work. We don't know what the Leo pontificate is going to be like.
Yeah.
My fellow traditional Catholics, whether you consider me a fellow traditional Catholic or not, consider me a semi-trad or whatever you consider me, I would just really challenge you, be hopeful, have the virtue of hope that God can work. We don't know what the Leo pontificate is going to be like. We have some good indications at the beginning, but it's only been a few days. We don't know what's going to happen. But we can trust that God will take care of us, that God is working, that all our prayers are being heard. Whether they're answered in the way we think they should be answered is another story, but they are being heard. And so we should be hopeful for that. Now,
okay, I think that's the yeah, I think that's the that's basically the gist of what Eric Salmon said. I if you want this video script, just uh and uh let it let it use some of it as part of the video, some of the clips. But then again, as I said, it's for that purpose. But yeah, that's That's basically what Eric Sammons wanted to say regarding uh, the cynicism that some have developed in the past 12 years. And again, I'm one of those cynical Catholics who are trying to throw away all of that. So that's that. Now, this is big. The clip that you have just the video clip that you have just watched or listened to is something that I certainly resonated with, especially with the fact that I am recovering from cynicism. Since moving to a safer distance in tackling ecclesial topics, somewhere in between Kaloy Palad and Burns Kasi, shout out to both of you, and and perhaps internationally between the traditional Thomist Nick Cavazos and Matt Frad, I have learned, perhaps as much as others did, to take the good with the bad. In God semantics, to let the weeds grow alongside the wheat and wait for harvest time on Judgment Day. Yeah, okay. There are those who think church and particularly Pope Leo should do some house cleaning in the Vatican in this new era. And you know what? Some initial actions have already been taken. In particular, booting out the controversial head of the John Paul II Institute for Life. So I think the name of the guy who was Archbishop Palya, and the the guy who Pope Leo uh, uh, appointed to that position as chancellor of the JP2 Institute for Life is Cardinal Baldassare Reina, one of the electors of this conclave. So perhaps this is a reward or a reward position. I am not sure, but at the very least, the guy who is Archbishop Palya, who allegedly purged the JP2 Institute of pro Catholics, dismissed for the lack of a better term. So that's a good thing. And and those things are much needed. But at the same time, we would be remiss if we focus only on what needs to be done and not what we can appreciate right now at at this point or as of this live stream. One of them is the use of Latin in prayers, chants, and liturgies. That's a big change that we are witnessing firsthand. Secondly, there's the singing or intonation of the Regina Caeli by the Pope. I mean, the first Regina Caeli was uh was the most iconic one because even though his voice falters a bit, he tried to chant. And the fact that there's this initiative from the Pontifical Institute for Music called Let's Sing with the Pope, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. So that's good. And then we can also appreciate the fact that traditional Latin masses are returning in some places, including allegedly Saint Mary Major, which is ironically the burial place of Pope Francis, who is the author of Traditiones Custodes. So basically, um, it's some kind of an in-your-face thing, but a much more subtle and more respectful way of doing that. But yeah, whatever. And it kind of reminds me of this Filipino saying which in Tagalog goes like malayo pa pero malayo na. Literally in English, it's still a long way but we've come a long way. Now, this kind of attitude is something that I would like to have at this time. Perhaps an off-white pill, not really a gray pill but an off-white majority colored pill, if you can imagine, as I think we should be joyous for a pope like Leo the 14th, but still be reminded of the pains of the past. And the reason why I say off white and not fully white, because, you know, uh, gray is a more ambiguous color of pill. And I don't want to swallow the gray pill. Okay. An off white pill, more of like taking the good with the bad. That's that's the pill I wanted to swallow at this point. And Salmons. You just heard Eric Salmons. When he said that I would rather be optimistic about Leo's pontificate and be burned later than to be cynical all the time, and not recognize when God is moving and not see when God works. That that is the attitude that I would like to resonate with, because he would rather swallow the white pill and challenge traditionalist Catholics to hope on the grace of God and the pontificate we have now. And in that video, or in that recorded as live video, I made a comment. And perhaps this is a good way of perhaps this is a good way of saying this, or ending this topic of me uh tackling about black pill versus white pill. So take of it what you will, but I would read my own comment on Crisis Point podcast, on that episode of the Crisis Point podcast. And um my comment goes, "Hi Eric, I became a cynic during Francis's papacy. However, I was fortunate enough to reconsider moving away from it and sacramentally confess to a priest I became a cynic." And speaking of sacrament and confession, I really need to go to confession too. So do pray for me that I get to confess to a priest soon. Okay? So that's that. But as I said, I was fortunate enough to reconsider moving away from it before he died, because of Dr. Jamel Saki, the guy who wrote Hope for Cynics. The fact that he's been advocating about optimistic skepticism as a more healthy way of seeing things made me reconsider the Catholic faith and just ignore Francis as a demented old man, and I don't need to spit on his grave by saying that. The other major things that made me consider abandoning my cynicism, other than being proven wrong about things in my life that is not faith related and being at the receiving end of small charitable actions, is the fact that people have been so dismissive about the latest news about the Shroud of Turin. And I know this is a tangent, the introduction of Emily Armstrong as the new co vocalist of Linkin Park. In short, I understand the cynics and bitter black pillars inside the church and even outside of it, especially that guy you may probably know, and I was referring to Skoyek in that comment. But prayers and charitable actions will be a good approach to win them over or even win them back. So that's the comment I made uh, in response to that episode of the Crisis Point podcast. As mentioned, I will be linking that episode in the live stream description. Plus the other things that I have mentioned in this live stream. And oh boy, 90 minutes. I'm going up to 90 minutes here, so I guess I need to wrap this up. I guess I would like to raise a toast to Eric Salmons for saying the right things. For saying the right things at this point, or at least during the first few weeks of Pope Leo's papacy. So yeah, I raise a toast to Eric Salmons and everyone who has been watching or listening to this, either live stream or after the fact. I know it's a Friday. You need to crunch those stuff for enjoying the weekend. But yeah, uh, wherever you are, Whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, this is coffee. I raise a toast to you. Cheers. Okay. I need to wrap this up. So, yeah. Uh expectations about some future content now that I have rebranded somehow when it comes to the logo. I'm working on the graphics for live stream on the the beginning and end of every live stream. So I'll have to sort that out. And at the same time, I'm still looking for employment. So yeah, I'm in a limited capacity and I have a lot of things to even consider. So yeah. So yeah, it's I just need to check in so that I can I was still I still have I still have it. I still have the skills to manage pod a production or a media production like this my own. So yeah, what am I saying? I've been rambling too much. I, I gotta get this. I gotta get out of here. So with all that said, this is Intrepid and Danyon reminding you to at all times, now more than ever, be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Until then, look alive, stay alive, be kind to yourself and to each other, and yeah, uh, I hope you have a great weekend because it's a Friday. So yeah. From here in Intrepid HQ, happy Friday to all of you, and see you next time. I don't know when or where or whatever, but see you next time. Ian out. Happy Friday. Bye, everyone.